Hi, my name is Allison, and my Education Giant report is on Robert Hutchins. Robert Hutchins was a philosopher, and he had a huge effect on education. And just a little bit about him. He was born in January of 1899, and in Brooklyn, New York. His father was a Presbyterian minister, and that really had an effect on a lot of his beliefs in education and religion. When he was 8 years old, they moved to Oberlin University so his father could be a teacher there. And that was a university that had a lot of evangelical ideas. So a lot of Hutchins' beliefs were based upon what he learned there as a child. When he was 18 years old, he joined the war efforts for World War I and became an ambulance service member. When he returned from the war, he went to Yale University in 1919. And he joined the Wolf's Head Society. He was really fascinated with case studies and law, and that kind of influenced what he decided to go into. He enrolled in Yale, and once he had met all the requirements, he was able to enroll in the law school there. And he viewed this as the beginning of his education. Even though he was already a little ways into it, he really thought education was so important that he would be learning for all of his life, and that he would continue on even after he graduated. He married his wife Maud in 1921, and they had their first child in 1925. After he graduated, he went to New York and taught English and history for about a year. And then after that, he was offered a position at Yale and became the secretary of the Yale Law School. And while he was there, he continued to go to school and finish getting his law degree. He actually graduated at the top of his class at Yale, so he was offered a faculty position there and became a teacher immediately after he graduated. And he taught utility law and evidence. He was really interested in that kind of a thing. When he was working there, he really tried to integrate psychology, sociology, and logic with law. In 1927, he became a part dean of the university, and in 1928, he was full dean. And at this time, he was just in his 20s still. And just think about how young that is, because I know some of you are probably in your 20s. And he was the dean of a university, a really sophisticated university. He was really hardworking, and he was very smart and educated, like I said. And as he was the dean there, he tried to blend social sciences and law. In 1929, he moved to Chicago, where he became the president of the University of Chicago. And while he was there, he solved a lot of social problems. It was during it was during the Great Depression. So he had to deal with a lot of hardships, and he was able to help his students through all those hard times. He reformed a lot of the curriculum while he was there as well. He was a president until 1945, and after that, when he retired, he became the chancellor in 1951. And while he was the president, he did a lot of reforming, including creating a 2-year bachelor tenure so that people could receive their bachelor's degree in 2 years. And he tried to get rid of a lot of distractions because he believed in creating a master's student who was concentrated on their education, on learning all the necessary things to prepare them for their future. So he got rid of football, and he tried to get rid of fraternities and even religious groups so that the students could concentrate on their education. It's really interesting because a lot of times now universities want people to be involved in things, but Hutchins believed in the opposite, that they needed to concentrate solely on their education. When he retired from that position, he became the president of Ford Foundation, and they were really doing well money-wise, so he tried to convince the other owners of the Ford Foundation to take that money and put it to good use. So he took that surplus money and created a lot of advancements of education and societies that would promote education, and I really love how much he was willing to spend his life devoted to education even after he was done with his job of being the president of the university and the dean. He was still concerned about students and their growth and their learning. Some of these foundations that he created still exist today, so that's really interesting. A lot of his ideas were based on perennialism, which is based on eternal truths, and it's the development of a person spiritually and temporally. Hutchins said, "The purpose of the university is nothing less than to procure a moral, intellectual, and spiritual revolution throughout the world." So he really believed in affecting the lives of his students and in helping them grow. He based his ideas a lot on the great books of education, and he believed in a utopia, in creating a perfect society where people were prepared for the future, and he wanted to produce good citizens who were responsible and who knew how to live their lives effectively. He had this belief that the education system was becoming a poor trade school, and that the good characteristics of the university were starting to diminish. So he thought that instead of teaching specialized skills for the careers in universities, they should teach general skills that everyone needs to know for the future. Excuse me. And that when they got to the jobs, that's when they would need to have specialized training, and that was the job's responsibility and not the university's. He also thought that education was becoming more of babysitting, and that's not how it's supposed to be. As students, especially in college, we need to be wanting to learn. It needs to not be having the teachers watch us and make sure we're doing what is right. We need to have a desire to learn and to do our best to learn. And we need to develop those primary skills. Hutchins believed that we need to concentrate on developing writing and reading and science, math, basic skills such as that, and that by knowing those things we would be prepared, and not just by passively going to school, but by actually learning things. He also believed that once we graduated from high school, that a higher education was very important. And I agree with that higher education is so influential in our lives, and that's what our Heavenly Father wants us to do, is to get an education. Hutchins also, he had this belief that once you had completed all the necessary courses, that you should take this test to see if you've learned the skills, and if not, then you don't receive your degree. And it wasn't based on this GPA or the courses that were taken, it's based on the skills learned. And I think that is a very crucial part, is that we actually learn the skills, because a lot of times you can get an A in a class, but did you actually learn anything? No, you just did the worksheets and you're fine. So I think that this is a great idea that Hutchins had. He had a huge effect on education, and he really influenced the ideas that we have today in our society of education.